Now I'm going to show you some of these recent watercolors. These watercolors were all done later on in the year 2000 and are dated between 2000 and 2002. This is the first one. This is called Woman Running with Dead Dog. And this is called The Grief of the Black Madonna. It's based on the Madonna of the Black Madonna of Montserrat, where I lived for 10 months in the 60s. Now, this is coming into another area because shamanic work gets you to places where you really feel that you are at the center of the universe in a way, and you feel grief which has collected there through time. It's some kind of pocket of dark grief, which I associate with the Black Madonnas, and very often shows up in my work as she as the container for the world's grief. And when you are on pilgrimages to these places, you're with thousands of people, and there is something about being side by side with people moving in the same direction to gaze and be in the presence of these great Black Madonnas, because many are people that are suffering great grief. They're carrying a lot of infirmities. They're going to pray for other people. They are people locked into a vision of the Mater Dolorosa, the suffering mother who has been suffering and containing grief since the beginning of time, in a way that no patriarchal God image can contain grief. It's women who carry the grief of the world and have done so from the beginning of time. This is another Mater Dolorosa.
Is it D-E-L-A-R-O-S?
Dolorosa. It means the sorrowful mother. Dolor means sad. You know, the doldrums. We have the word the dol. She's in the doldrums. She's sad. She's dark. She's filled with grief for whatever. So the Mater Dolorosa is the mother who contains our grief. In relationship to her grief. She's the eternal mother suffering the death of a child. I want to show you also, you're getting a preview of these. Most people know nothing about my graphic work, but I, for many, many years, was a graphic artist working in these very powerful, large woodcuts, and a technique I call gesso cut, which is the same as woodcuts. This is the Mater Dolorosa, a statue of Mary, Mater Dolorosa, containing in a diptych with the sorrow of St. John and Mary at the foot of the cross. And these are large. These are about 38 inches. This will be about 38 inches horizontally and about 22 inches this way. This is John holding the body of Christ after the crucifixion. Again, the same size. And I did a series I simply call Pietà. There are about a dozen of them, although only about, I think, 4 or 5 still exist. This is the Pietà. It's a standing Pietà. So Mary throws her cape over her face, and it covers the upper body of the dead son. Another Pietà. The wounds of Christ, the broken body itself becoming an altar. So the wounds make the 4 corners of the altar. And she is the great triangle container of grief. Pietà means it's something like, it means, oh, pity the person who carries the pity, the grief. There isn't a PHO. You don't see images of men carrying the grief. It's the women carrying the grief. And it's a word associated with Mary grieving at the foot of the cross, her son. And when Jesus was taken down from the cross, that he lay, the corpse lay in her lap, in that place of grieving. Like you can turn the television on any night of practically the year and see someplace a war where mothers are grasping their dead children or their dead husbands or their dead brothers to their lap, to their heart, back to the womb. Those of you who know my book, The Mother's Songs, know that I talk about my grandmother who had a collection of Halloween masks, and which she used to pull out from time to time and scare the bejesus out of us. And this was a huge thing in our lives during the summer, my sister and I. And we feared it, but we loved it, of course. And of course, we knew it was Mi'kmaq, and yet it's sort of, the whole experience always transcended. It moved into the really psycho place of real spirit exchange. So that when she talked, it really was the spirit of this mask, talking through this mask. And one of the masks was a dog mask, and it was, of course, my favorite one. And it just shows you how powerful these images are, that they remain present tense. So here is a picture of the bed that we slept in, Mima and I. Very often my other sister wasn't there. It was just I was there alone with my grandmother. The bed we slept in, and then she would disappear, go outside, and then do this scraping on the screen porch with the flashlight and the mask. And so this is such a profound reality to me a whole lifetime later. Now this is a fairly recent painting. Was it this year? And I think maybe it was last year. I can't remember exactly. But this is still this exchange of energy. And again, I'm reduced to sort of like a larva that you might, if you kicked over a log, you might find living in the darkness. But this beholding and this exchange of energy is something that I've been using more and more recently. The exchange of the spirit, our exchange of the spirit world is this. It's as strong and as visceral as an exchange of literally of body fluids. So here she is wearing this huge dog mask, like an Anubis mask from Egypt. And Artemis is figuring a lot in these new images. Here again is this transmission. This is me lying at the threshold of the mystery, being directly fed by one of her animals. I think this probably represents Erdamir. And here is divine Artemis, divine black Artemis. And usually when she appears in some kind of, the feeling of some kind of like woods or kind of a dense growth. Her mouth is nearly always open in my images of her. And I've painted quite a few images of Artemis over the years. This is another image of Artemis. It's called Artemis dancing with her Alani. The Alani were female dog priestesses. And as you know, all these sanctuaries and the places where Artemis was worshipped, these were not temples in cities. They were sanctuaries outside of cities in the kind of quasi-wilderness area. And they were also the early orphanages, because it was to Artemis that people brought children whose mothers had died in childbirth or for whatever reason, if a child needed a home and there was not family to care for that child, that child, a little boy, little girl, and also animals that were sick or needed help or lost were also taken to her sanctuaries. And the priestesses associated with these sanctuaries were called, very often called the little bears, but there were also priestesses who wore dog masks. Now, isn't this interesting? You see, this is information. I mean, I'm always finding information that relates to my own personal story. It's like, you know, how amazing to go to Greece and find these sanctuaries and read these stories about, this is a place where there were these dog priestesses, and I'm thinking that, my God, maybe Mima was a dog priestess in another life, and that's who came to me and fed me, because she was in another lifetime a dog priestess and a Lani. Your imagination starts playing with these possibilities, because in the spirit world everything is present tense. It's the old thing about going around, coming around. And so this is why my grandmother's still so alive in my life. And you'll see lots of pictures of Mimo in this new book.
Meinrad?
Mm-hmm.
Do you intend for the open mouth to communicate a bit of fierceness or?
Oh, absolutely. This is her animal energy. These are the understanding of communicating really strong stuff. It's not open in the sense of viciousness, like tearing or wounding, although maybe that's also part of it. One of the most profound things anyone ever told me was when I was in Stanbrook. I had scarcely been in the monastery, I think less than a year, when a visiting Dominican priest friend came to visit me at Stanbrook. He was an American and had been to Rome, and in fact, on his way back from Rome, stopped in England specifically to come to the monastery and see me. I hadn't seen him for a number of years, and during the course of our conversation, he said, it was one sentence, and it's a sentence I've lived with all of my life, and I think it's also very much a part of these paintings. He said to me, and I can't even remember what the conversation was, but he leaned forward and he said to me, don't ever forget that God's will has teeth in it. It was an image given to me, and I give it to you. You can think about it, pray about it, use it however you wish. For some people it would be terrifying, but I don't find it terrifying. I find it very near the source of the fierceness of creation. And living with animals is living very close to the fierceness of creation. And remember that we have only the palest shadow of understanding this fierceness, because we live in civilization. And I mean, civilization means no animals, or only animals that we fit into our society. But remember that for gazillion billions of years, millions of years at least, that human beings lived side by side in this hugely important relationship with the animal world. So here she is dancing with her dogs, her spirit dogs. I just remember this painting being difficult because these robes that the dog priestesses were wearing in the beginning were really multicolored, very, very vibrant, very, very vibrant. And then gradually, as the painting moved on, they were calling too much attention to themselves. So I had to tone all this down, because I wanted the composition to be up here in this relationship up here, this great, strong movement compositionally.
So that cross is that her body with her arms hanging out?
It's her arms up in the air, and her these are her feet hanging out. And this is called a woman with ravens. A woman lifted off her feet in ecstasy. And Barbara, this is the little, who was talking about the little fire god? Here's my little fire god. This is called Crow Mother calls in the little fire god. The little fire god is the 12-year-old boy who represents living fire, who leads in all the kachinas at Zuni for the hugely important feast roughly the middle of December each year. And packs of dogs or dogs working together fascinate me. Some of the stories in my new book talk about that.
These are all watercolors.
These are all the watercolors. This is called bosque. The bosque is the woods by the river. When you went to the river, you were in the bosque. This is called Bosque Sunset. They gather to hunt. These are all the coyotes who gather to hunt in the evening. Come together and they kind of psych each other up. One of my favorite paintings.
You're going to tell the story, aren't you?
Am I going to? Amy wants me to tell the story. Okay, Rosemary and another neighbor who lives on Campbell Road went south to the Bosque del Apache because Kate, the other friend, celebrates her birthday in November. So we usually she takes the day off work. She works at the university. And we go south to the Bosque del Apache, which it's one of the great flyovers in the American continent, where all of the birds who in the summer are up in Alaska and way up in the frigid area come down here in the winter along the Rio Grande in southern New Mexico. It's about an hour's drive from Albuquerque south. And we spent the day there hiking and walking and being with all these gazillion birds and seeing coyotes, from time to time, etc. And it's one of these national parks, and they usually close they close according to the light. So they were closing, I don't know, I guess at about 5:30 or 6 o'clock. Anyway, we stayed. We were one of the last cars out. Stayed until the bitter end, so to speak, and it's rare to be in the Bosque del Apache and not see coyotes. We had not seen a coyote all day. And I really felt spooked about this because my energy can call coyotes to me. And I had talked to coyotes for the whole blooming day and they had just ignored me. And I was really, it made me very sad. I have to tell you, I was sad about it and I felt unworthy, and I get myself, kind of in a screwed up mess about this. When my animal spirits, I feel abandoned. So I was feeling very pouty about this. Anyway, we came out, and before we set off up the highway, coming up to Albuquerque, I said, I gotta pee. And so then Kate said, well, I'll squat too. And then, well, I may as well pee too. So anyway, and by then it was, it really was dark. And as honest to God, as soon as we zip and squatted to pee, every coyote in the bosque seemed to be doing this, and it was like this thunderous laughter that, you fools, we were there all the time, even though you couldn't see us, we were with you, and why did you doubt it? And there was this huge release. We were laughing so hard with these coyotes that I just remember my urine coming out in squirts because I was laughing and squatting. And it was just this fabulous experience of course we were there, and even if you didn't see us, we were with you, and I don't know. So that's what this is what the energy that's in this painting. The wonderful trickster coyotes. And this is called The Death of a Dog. This was painted several years before Brimos actually died, and it spooked me, actually. because when I painted it, I thought, oh my God, maybe he's going to die soon. In fact, he didn't die soon. He lived well into old age. But this is a very profoundly moving image for me. This is, of course, Crow Mother, and she's holding a burning torch up and a burning torch down. This is one of the ancient symbols of the burning torch held up signifies life, and to hold it down it signifies death. The flame goes out. It's at that moment of death when the flaming torch becomes the torch going out. And Coyote, the dog god, walks into the composition to claim Brimos as his own, claim him from Crow Mother, that she is the in my own hierarchy of in my own imagination of hierarchies, she is the great above. She's the hierarch, and he is a lesser god, so to speak. But I've this afternoon when we're in the studio, about 5 years ago, I did a series of charcoals based on the sacred marriage between Crow Mother and the dog god in Coyote, and I don't have many of them anymore. They've been sold, but I'll show you some of this. And in all of them, it's a side that they are looking at each other. They are in conversation. So here they are in conversation. And this is the painting that my editor chose for the cover of the book. So, and the title of the book will be Crow Mother and the Dog God. Now, just a few images of centering and celebrating centering, because that's what we are celebrating. We are celebrating our being together at our own center. And this is a photograph from Australia that I found in a book. A wonderful two priests, or a priest and a priestess. I can't tell. Anyway, a male who is carrying the sacred phallus prominently, and also obviously holding or indicating his own phallus on the ground, next to a woman or a man dressed as a woman, and very often the case, who is carrying the sacred womb. The spiral is always the symbol of the sacred womb, beginning and expanding. The womb of the Great Mother, which begins and expands aboriginally. And the meditation is obviously a meditation of the center. Probably a period of ritual, and you have a feeling that other people are sitting in a circle around this center. So this in itself, symbolically, side by side, are images of the sacred marriage, the divine phallus and the divine cyclic movement, or sphere. The sphere and the phallus. Many images of the myth of the world egg. In the beginning there was nothing, there was simply the egg, and at some point, and this is before there was time, and time happens when the world egg breaks open and all that is comes tumbling out of the world egg. This is a beautiful manuscript from India. I find them deeply, deeply satisfying. This represents Aboriginal chaos, unformed formlessness, and this great golden egg. In the manuscript it's more golden than this. I've actually seen this manuscript. It's in one of the museums in London. The center in relationship to our mothers and our siblings. My mother's womb being this complicated, intermeshed, intertwined, intertwining of three threads, the three threads of our life, the three ropes of our life, and the mouth, the oral opening, always symbolic of the opening into the womb. And we come from her already connected, and we remain connected. One of the greatest treasures of my life is my relationship with my two sisters. We are very, very close. We are very different. We have very different lives, and we are just great gifts to each other. They are a huge constant in my life, and I think especially since our parents died when they were young. My mother was 60 when she died, and Daddy was 66. So we've been without our parents for a long, long time. This is called The Web. This again is based on the story of Spider-Woman that I told you earlier. And the center of the seasons, which we are celebrating today and tomorrow, the mystery of the equinox. These are the four seasons dancing together in relationship to the whole year. So here is the whole year. The movements of the sun, the movements of the moons, the movements of the seasons, how they are in lock and then out of step and then in lock again. We are celebrating today this place of being locked in, this place of absolute edge between the darkness doing this and the darkness doing something else, as we move now out of summer into fall and then into winter. And the four faces of the seasons, also the four colors of our skin, we beautiful human beings on the earth. And one of the great beautiful, beautiful dances in European art history. This is a painting in Siena, in the town hall in Siena. Ambrosio Lorenzetti, the beautiful rhythm. Look at this, the rhythm of these. You can just feel the thump thump of the drums and the singing. She's got her mouth open, and this going under, not exactly a round dance, but this in and out, going under and over. It's so gorgeous, this piece, I can't tell you. Well, this is a huge, you know, piece like this, and this is like one little area of it, hon. Okay. Yes, there are some horsemen up above. Okay. But yes, well, if you didn't know that, what would, you know, how could you have known that? Finally, for the slides today, this beautiful, beautiful round dance. It was sent to me many, many years ago when I was in the monastery, and the photograph is so gorgeous, I've always kept it. It's the monks at a monastery, I think it's in Rhode Island or Connecticut or someplace like that, called Weston Monastery. And sorry, did someone know?
I don't know, it's Western Priory.
Western Priory, that's it, yes. And they, obviously they're in some kind of, I've never been here. This is some kind of a barn, and obviously people are sharing in the liturgy, but this divine, beautiful photograph of the monks of the community doing this round dance. So we must think of this beautiful image when we do our round dance in the afternoon. And if you can do round dances with each other, I feel that they're very important. And certainly for the 8 turnings of the year, I feel it's very important to be doing a round dance. As the world is shifting, it's nice to be in movement ritually with the world shifting from dark to light, from season to season, from, you know, low sun to high sun. Okay, folks, thank you.